Hello men, women, and them of culture, we meet again. So I took a sweet, soothing little therapeutic trip to my favorite gas station in America the other day, whose name may ring a bell in your mind. The name of the station is Bussies, and as I typically do whenever I visit my local Bussies, I got an extra large Bussie cup of my favorite Bussie beverage. But as I was leaving the store, my boyfriend set off my remote Bussie plug, which caused me to drop my cup and send Bussie juice dripping down my leg. Now normally when this happens I get quite upset, but as the events transpired this time around, an idea popped into my head. Seeing the freshly purchased batch of Bussie juice elegantly dripping from my quadricep made me remember something. I really enjoy thighs. So naturally, now we have to rank every single Marvel Rivals hero based on their thigh size. So I'll quit wasting your time. Allow me to gently glide you into an ever-so-vescent high while you listen to some random guy strive to change your mind about pixelated video game character thighs. I hope you enjoyed that title card. Now let's start off with someone special, Psylocke. Her quadriceps are so splendiferous that they come with a built-in glazing on the top of them to add extra shine, which in terms makes my opinion shine brighter. Even if you're not using Psylocke's Gooner skin, you can just tell that this mamacita has some major kikas, and golly oh goodness does she. She's even got some little rings on her pants that I for some reason really want to stick my fingers through. But yeah, Goonlock will start us off right and land herself an easy S tier. Next up is Hulk. Now I'm glad we're not talking about Bruce Banner here, because the Lord knows I have a few boners to pick with him. Hulk 2's thighs, however, are gargantuan, but they're gigantic in a way that I personally do not find attractive. Like, the amount of different bumps and humps within this man's leg plants a peg in my opinion on them. What the fuck, dude? Did an asteroid just hit my house? My whole fucking house just vibrated. I feel like I'm in Ukraine right now. Like, if we're being honest, Hulk's thighs are probably the weakest link within his entire character build. Like, how are this man's calves bigger than his fucking quads? It doesn't even make any sense. So for this reason, I'm gonna have to give him a B tier. The Thing. This Rockefeller shares many similarities with the roided up Banner, but in my eyes he just does everything better. He's got a more even girth level between all of his different muscles, even his cock probably. And you just know this fella could cause a category 69 earthquake upon curb stomping somebody. Getting stepped on by this man would cause more of a mess than getting crushed by a human-sized hydraulic press, and that's quite impressive if you ask me. So I'm gonna give him an A tier. Only reason he's not an S is because I don't find them hot, just very respectable. On the complete opposite side of the spectrum we got Man-Tits. This bitch's britches are always an extra small size, because her thighs never comply with filling the sides of her, okay, I can't really find another word to rhyme, but basically what I'm trying to say is that her legs greatly resemble those of a stick bug, or an IRL mantis. They're very skinny, which if you're someone who is deeply attracted to the disease known as anorexia, this might tickle your bosoms. But for myself and many others, I prefer at least regular wide levels. Okay, to be honest, she's not that bad. I just didn't feel like passing up the opportunity to compare the bug woman to an insect. So, I'm gonna give her B tier. Helicopter, helicopter. Can we be real for a sec? Hela's hotness does not come from her thoughtful thigh size. Because if we're being 101% honest, them bitches are thinner than a Thin Mint. You take off the extra armor pieces attached to her legs, and you're left with mediocre mommy members at best. Hela is in fact not looking like a double-wide surprise. Instead, her thighs are looking like a small side of fries. So to no surprise, she's gonna have to meet her demise in D tier, guys. Adam Sandler. Now listen, I know the image I'm showing you isn't like 360p, but it's just too goofy for me not to use, so I'm sure you understand. Adam's one of the many men, no 50 Cent, that covers their thighs with thigh-high pantalones, so I can't really get a good girth judge off of a glance. But just by examining his entire base attire, I can tie together a quick hypothesis when I say that his legs are of decent beefiness, but unfortunately, that's all I'm able to do. Maybe one day they'll give Adam a skin with thigh-highs on, that way I can get a proper ranking in, but for now, I'm just gonna have to slam him into C tier by default. Black Panther. Now I get a boner when I look at this guy, or at least, my bad. Or at least that's what I would say if I found men attractive, which I certainly do not. I often find myself zoning out whilst gazing the astonishing girth of the growling Wakanda's wachachas. They're very pleasant to look at. They're not overly exaggerated in terms of muscular physique. They're just perfect. So enough glazing the goat. Actually, you know what? BP earns himself a unique acronym. Enough glazing the Panther, as in perfect, amazing, nurturing, titty hair erotic receiver. S tier. On the complete opposite side of the chopping board, we got Goon Knight. This dude is a cannibal's worst nightmare, because he's got no meat, which means he's got nothing that can feed. You see, the meat above his knees are full of deceit, because the padding he's wearing makes it seem like it's more full of gleam, but in reality he's got nothing to offer to the team. So although this is quite obscene, I'm gonna have to lean this bean into a tier that might seem mean, but it's what I have to do to keep this list clean. So, Mark's unfortunately our first recipient of the F tier. He estado esperando este. Next up we got Luna Snow. Snow. Now listen guys, you know how much I appreciate my dear Mrs. Snow, but you're also aware that I have to keep this fair, yo. And if we're being honest, there's certainly not a lot there, bro. Now if I was retarded, that is what I would say. But to a lot of y'all's dismay, I'm actually a very intellectual human being. Y'all really thought I was about to place my queen at a low ass tier? Hell no. Luna's getting a fat ass. And I don't even need to explain myself. But now that we rank the hottest hero in the roster, I think it's only fitting to rank the literal hottest hero next. Let's talk about Human Torch. This tube's got some tantalizingly tiny thighs, but I guess when you're constantly burning at the temperature of the sun, you kind of inadvertently burn away all of your thickness. How can this man have the broadest boulders of shoulders I've seen, but then have 2 Verizon blow-up noodles for legs? I don't know what kind of leg exercises this fucker can do, since he's constantly floating, but he needs to figure something out fast, cause that's embarrassing. Mr. Torch gets an F tier. I am Groot. Groot's got some absolute tree trunks for thyroids, and also thighs. Whenever I catch a gander at this well-mannered Neander, I get reminded of the time this Mexican father walked up to me one day while I was working and started asking me for directions to the bathroom, all the while he was carrying around these absolute Mack trucks for leg muscles. Dude looked like he had 2 tumors hanging off of his pelvis, and that's what Groot reminds me of. So, I'm gonna give him an A tier. Doctor Strange. Doc reminds me of my old midget friend from high school. Like, I know he's not a small man by any stretch of the imagination, but his body just looks slightly squished, which in turns creates the illusion of short legs. And even if this ocular occultation didn't occur, he still doesn't have much fascination built into his fritters anyways. Strange is the definition of mid, and mid is the definition of C tier. Next up is the man who picked a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Parker. I have one thing and one thing only to say. Mediocre. Peter just looks like your basic nerdy teenage boy, so I'm gonna make this quick and give him a D tier for delectably dog shit. Namor. Now this fella's definitely been eating some Arby's, because he's got the meat. This dude's so muscular even his nipples have muscles. If you were to punch one of this man's thighs full force, your hand would shatter into more pieces than the second tower. You know how when after a leg pump your quads start feeling like the fucking boulder off of that one SpongeBob episode? That's what Namor's feel like on the regular, and Lord knows I would enjoy grasping them. Easiest S tier by far. Sue Storm. Well, we're getting into the juicy ones now. Do I really need to sit here and explain to you doofuses why I'm about to place Sue where I'm about to place her? I think even if you're a Sue hater, you can still agree with this ranking. She gets an F tier. There's absolutely nothing. Next up is Storm without the Sue. Now I would love to place my main woman in S tier because she's got the leg length on point, but in terms of leg width, that's where she falls. She's in the same boat as Mantis where they could be better, but I wouldn't consider them mediocre. So I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to give her a B tier. Oh yeah, and I was just trolling you about Sue. Hop that ass up in S bit. Peter Queef. I mean Queer. Fuck, I mean Quill. Jesus Christ. I'm not gonna waste y'all's time on this snooze fest ranking. Peter's got very little to offer here, and to make things worse, you can't even see any skin. He is at best a C tier hero in terms of thighs. There is zero room for argument here. Next up is Wanda. I often lie in my bed Wanda-ing when NetEase will bless us with a Wanda skin that shows some skin. But then I realize I'm a grown-ass man and I should probably stop pondering about fictional women like Wanda. But I can't help myself. My life won't be complete until the day Wanda obtains a canonical feat that shows her meat, as in leg meat. But until that day comes, I'm gonna have to leave Mrs. Witch in B tier out of pure defeat. Richards Reed. Even in this man's base state, he's got a pretty nice set of thumpers on him. But as you all know, Big Man has the power to become a real-life Stretch Armstrong and girth himself up whenever he pleases. Meaning he's able to perfectly craft himself to whatever your preferences are at that very moment, rendering him a very easy S tier participant. Now that we're on the topic of perfectly crafting ourselves, I suppose we should speak about Loki, as he does almost the same exact thing as Reed. I'd argue Loki should be placed at the top of the S tier, simply due to his superbly powerful superpowers. But since he's a phony jabroni, I'm just gonna put him at the back of S tier, because his canonical state isn't very visually pleasing to look at. Nonetheless, that can be changed in an instant, so he could change into literally anybody else in S. Next up is Wolverine. Now this is a very hairy man, right? So his legs are definitely looking like a desolate part of the Amazon rainforest, but I'm thinking as long as I bring my weed whacker with me to the thigh examination session, I don't think there will be any problems. Loki's got an astonishingly erotic set of tree trunks attached to his lower body. That shit is military grade Kevlar of impenetrability. Then again, I don't find them very attractive, so I'm just gonna plop them in A tier. Next up on the chopping block, we got Rocket. Even as a hairy beast, I still don't think this creature has as much hair as Logan, and he definitely doesn't have the same girth as a mad lad. I will say though, in terms of the raccoons I've seen throughout my entire lifetime, Rocket probably has the most balanced proportions out of them all. If I had to tap one raccoon out of all the raccoons in the universe, I'd choose Rocket, so long as teeth weren't involved. But his legs are rather mediocre to my standards, so I'm gonna give him a D tier. Now I know I've been talking about hair for a minute now, but Squirrel Girl is literally the definition of hair. Albeit her legs are more bald than Heisenberg, so I think I'm gonna do it. For once in my life, I'm gonna give Squirrel Girl the tier she truly deserves. Because everyone can agree that her thighs are inarguably the most attractive thing in her body, so long as you aren't a stinky furry. So the squirrel gets an S tier. You're welcome. I can officially say with this next hero, we've retired the hair era, because next up we got Venom. And I got a question. Does Venom canonically grow hair? Or does he just take a straight edge razor to his entire body a few times a week to remain full body bald? I'm not saying his baldness is a bad thing, because if he had hair, then his massive mammoths of thighs would probably score a bit lower for me. Venom's legs perfectly calibrate to his cheeks. Whenever he starts throwing it back in my comp games, I can't help but be hypnotized by the absolute schmovement. So with that being said, I'm gonna swiftly schmoove him straight into A tier. Next up is Papa Punisher. This dude is soon to be as bald as Venom due to his obvious excessive use of steroids. Okay dude, Jesus, seriously, I'm done talking about hair. Although I can't see Punisher's thighs in its purest form due to the wretched clothing that he's wearing, I can make an assumption and say that he's probably packing some absolute heat for leg meat. His quads look to be the same size as his bicep, and his biceps are the first thing that catch my eye about this guy. So for that reason, I'm gonna cheerfully steer this deer gracefully into B tier. Next up is Thor skin. I dislike every single aspect about this man. I'm just gonna speed run this ranking because every time I talk about Thor, I physically feel myself becoming more and more drowsy with each word that leaves my mouth. This old fart is a C tier. His thighs are averagely wide. He's just not that guy. Next up is my glorious king, Bucky Barnes. Now, although his legs aren't anything to desire, you have to admire his unique ability to jump 20 feet into the air over and over, involuntarily smashing his ops into the ground. Bucky has what I would call a sleeper build. On a quick glance, there wouldn't be a chance of you catching something magical, but after your eyes dance past his sabbatical, he'll quickly advance on your vulnerable asshole, rendering you a vegetable. And no, I have absolutely zero idea what the fuck I'm talking about right now. Bucky gets a B tier. Allow me to mac on Magneto. Mag's got some wide, wise-ass thighs. I get a surprise every time my eyes glide over this fly guy. Typically, I wouldn't hold an uprise whenever looking at Magneto, but he's actually got quite a quail-quashing set of Quakers. And no, I'm not talking about the fucking oatmeal, but maybe I should, because Mag looks like he gets plenty of oats with those devious-ass quads. So you know what? I'm giving this cutie an A tier. Suck me off. Let's talk about Chode and Boner. Starting with Cloak, this vegetable doesn't have any legs, so I'm not even gonna rank him. Dagger, on the other hand, has got quite the mesmerizing set of muchachas on her. You know what they say, if the thighs are bigger than the waist, then I'm shooting some paste. So Dagger earned herself an A tier. Speaking of paste, next up we got the woman, whose my opinion is a direct copy and paste of Sue Storm, which is Black Widow. Her thighs may be tinier than Sue's, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't pursue knocking down them dunes. The caveman inside of me comes out every time my eyes strike this woman, so let's get this over with. Black Widow is an easy S tier. Next up is a fan favorite, Captain United Kingdom. Cap is the pinnacle of male physique. A lot of young men and tomboys alike have aspired to look like this man for generations. Every muscle on this bloke's body is perfectly crafted to be as excellent and efficient as possible, and that certainly does not exclude his thighs. What I would do for Cap to hit me with the Undertaker's signature finisher just one time. Anyways, Cap gets an S tier. Next up is Hawkeye. Mid. Fucking D tier. Next up is Iron Boy. Now my boy Tony could have easily given his suit the most delectable pair of thighs in the observable universe, but he decided to instead be humble with his design choices, while at the same time still giving himself the edge in terms of attributes. Without yattering for too long, I think Tony's suit is well worthy enough for a respectable B tier. Next up on the chopping block is Iron Fist. Think about it this way. This sushi roll enjoying badass greatly enjoys the act of kicking your fat ass across the map, which during the repeated motion of this action over time, slowly builds him the most buff looking leg muscles a man could ever come equipped with. There's a reason he hides those monsters under his long baggy pants, because if he were to show the world his monstrosity of a mammal trunk, there would be a worldwide faintage. The Fist of Iron easily earns himself an S tier. Next up is the cutie himself, Jeffy Boy. I'm not gonna make any jokes here because I'm mature, but this little man looks like a paraplegic. His little nubs are not cutting it for me. See what I did there? I am very disappointed they didn't make this fucker more masculine. Imagine the fear a buff ass baby shark would shoot into your enemies. F tier. Next up is Mama Magic, or should I say Madge Thick, because Lord have mercy on whatever is left of my soul. I would sell my soul to get between Magic's thick ass thighs. Just kidding, I would never do that. Remember guys, repent your sins, don't rekindle them. In all seriousness, Magic has the greatest thighs out of all the characters right beyond Psylocke for me. They're just nearing perfection, and I'm nearing erection. And would you look at that? There's only one more hero that he's talking about on this lovely evening. Let's talk about the game's latest and greatest addition to the hero roster, Emma Frost. I originally wasn't gonna make this tier list due to having different video ideas in mind, mind. But once I saw Mrs. Frost's reveal trailer for the first time, I started frothing at the mouth. Or frothing, not frauding, what the fuck? Frothing with an H. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain Emma is the only hero in the game with built-in thigh jiggle physics. And boy was she a worthy test subject. These developers are more horny than your average Redditor, but I'm not complaining. So as you all probably could have guessed, I'm giving Emma Frost the only tier she's worthy to be in. S tier. And I just realized I forgot to rank magic, so she's getting S tier as well. And that was the Therapeutic Thigh Tier List Marvel Rivals Edition. If you enjoy, consider clicking one of the videos on screen now and brutally molesting the subscribe button. If you want to catch me live playing some rivals I occasionally stream on Twitch, so go give that a follow in the description. With that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evenings, and I'll see y'all later.